Hey everyone, welcome to the series where we will be designing a simple portfolio website for a photographer. Here is a sneak peek. Before we begin, feel free to hit the subscribe and the bell icon since it helps me down the road to come up with more creative contents. Now, we will see this in 4 separate stages. Stage 1, we will design the UI using Figma. Stage 2, we will prototype the designed UI. Stage 3, we will design the mockup. And finally, in stage 4, we will animate the designed UI. In this video, we will be covering stage 1. We will be designing the UI just like the one you see on the screen. All the stages will be available under the playlist and also in the descriptions. Now without further ado, let's begin. Open Figma and I have it open here. Create a new project and I have my existing project named DSLR open right here. Now, the idea is to compare the new UI with the existing one. That way it's easier to comprehend. Now, once you've opened your new project, go down here, choose frame. Now from the list of options available, choose the corresponding screen. Since we'll be designing the UI for a website, let's go with MacBook Pro. Now I'm going to keep it to the top. Cool. Alright. Up next, we can see that the background is black. So let's choose a frame, come down here to the fill section, bring the pointer all the way down. And there we go, we have a black background. Now, before we move ahead with the remaining sections, let me import all these images. Now, all these images have been downloaded from Unsplash and Pexels, and the links to the corresponding images will be provided in the description. Once you have downloaded all these images, let's import those images. So go down here, choose place image. I have them assorted here. Choose all these 7 images and click open. Now, while it takes a second to load, we have 2 options. Either we can place all the images or we can place them one by one. So I'm gonna zoom out, and to zoom out, hold down the control key and the scroll button. I'm going to place them one by one since that's way more fun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, by default, it has been selected. Now I'm going to reduce the size altogether. So hold down the shift key and use the corner points to decrease the size. The reason being, while you hold down the shift key, the proportion remains the same. Now, out of all these 7 images, the first one and the third one are for 2 different sections, so I'm going to keep them aside. The remaining 5 images has the same width and height since they belong to the gallery. So I'm going to choose all the 5 images. Now let me remove the link and change the width to 108 and the height to 377. Cool. Now let's arrange them in order. First one would be the plane, second one would be the pine trees, I guess. This one would be the top view and the waterfall. And the top view again. Alright. Now, let me group all these images together. So I'm going to select them all together. Hold down Ctrl G. As you can see, all the layers have been grouped together. Now to rename the layer, double click on the layer and rename it as Gallery. Cool. Now let me zoom in, hold down the Ctrl key and the scroll button. As you can see, there are these tiny corner divider points, I guess. And you can just drag along it. And it just tidies the entire gallery images. Alright, now since that's done, let's go to the first section. As you can see, here the camera or the DSLR image has been cropped, whereas it's not the case over here. As you can see, the width over here is 1406 and 644. And I'm going to crop this image. So to crop the image, select the image, go down to the fill section, change fill to crop. Alright, and as you can see, we can drag it all the way down. Cool. Alright, so now we have the image. And let me crop the sides too. So yeah. Alright, so as you can see, at the moment, the image is outside the given frame MacBook Pro 1. The moment I bring it inside the frame, you can see the image gets inserted within the MacBook Pro layer. Now let me change the width and height. The width here is 1406 and height is 644 and it has been linked. So I'm going to do the same over here. Let's go for 1406 and by default, the proportion remains the same. So it's totally fine since it has been linked. Cool. So to align the image perfectly center, select the image and go up to the top here and choose corresponding one. So I'm aligning it to the center. Alright. So what should we do next? Alright. Now before we go with the remaining text and descriptions, let's continue with the remaining sections. So now to increase the height of the given canvas or the frame, choose a frame and we know the height is 900. So we need one more section. So I'm going to multiply it by 2. So that would be 1800. As you can see, the height has increased. Alright. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the gallery images to the right. Alright. And we'll be having a description on the left. Now we'll be adding the descriptions at the end. Let's proceed ahead with adding the images. So now I'm going to increase the frame size again. So I'm going to choose a frame and I'm going to go with 2700. 3 times 900 is 2700. So now we have the third section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this particular image. And for that, I have the image over here. I'm going to reduce the size, hold down the shift key. Alright, the width over here is 754 and it has been linked. So we don't have to bother about both the dimensions. So we could just enter in one value. So I'm going to give the width as 754. Alright. Now let's make the fourth section. That would be for the contact. So let me choose a frame again. Let me increase the height to 3600. 4 times 9 is 36. So we have the fourth section over here. Alright. So now we have a rough sketch. What we are going to do next is we are going to add these tiny descriptions and all the links. So let's come over here, choose the text tool, click here, and let's type about. Alright. Now as you can see, here about is in the font Roboto regular and the size is 14. So I'm going to do the same over here, Roboto regular and the size as 14. Now the color is black and we need it to be white so that there's a good contrast. Cool. So I'm going to bring the about to here. Alright. Now let's do the same for gallery and contact. So hold down about. To make a duplicate, hold down the Alt key and drag. Alright, now I'm going to rename it as gallery. Hold down the Alt key. Now, if it goes out of line, you could just hold down the Shift key. Now, to multi-select about, gallery and contact, select about, hold down the Shift key, select gallery and then select contact. That's how you do multi-select. Now, I need to arrange the width in the right order. So as you can see, that when I'm trying to move it, Figma itself is giving me guidelines. So that's a good thing about Figma. Alright, so let it be there. Now what do we need? What do we need next? We need the name of the designer or the photographer. So I'm going to take a duplicate, hold on the Alt key and drag it all the way here. Hold on the Shift key. So that way it stays in the same guidelines. Now I'm going to rename it as name just for the time being. So I'm going to select name and let's make it, let's say bold, medium. Let's give it as bold. Cool. And what was the size over here? Size was 18. So let's do the same over here. Now I'm going to multi-select, hold on the shift key, choose the responding elements, and I'm going to group this as the neighbor. So Control G, and I'm going to rename it as neighbor. So the advantage is that I can, manipulate it at the same time altogether. Can move and drag it at the same time. All right. So now we are done with the first section. All right. Now let's move ahead to the second section. So this is the gallery section, and we'll be having a tiny description stating a few hand-picked ones. In the sense, a few hand-picked portfolio photos, scenery photos taken by the designer or the photographer. So let's choose the text tool and type again here a few hand picked ones. Let's reduce the boldness to, let's say, regular. No, let's go with medium, and let me change the color to white so that there's a good contrast. So I'm going to bring it over here. Let's see what's the size over here. 24, and it's regular. So 24 regular. I'm going to keep it over here. So when we select a particular element, we can see their x and y coordinates. As you can see here, it's 134, the x coordinate. So I'm going to do the same over here, 134, and the y coordinate being 1162. So let's go for 1162. It need not be so pinpoint because the first one was an initial rough sketch. So now we need a description. So as you can see, it's lorem ipsum, which is a default, description that everyone uses as a dummy text. Now to get lorem ipsum, all you have to do is go to Google Chrome and search for lipsum.com, and then you can, just select the text that you need, and let's say copy, Control C, come back to Figma and Control V. Alright, so the text is a bit long. What I'm going to do is I'm going to enter . Alright, now let's keep the hierarchy proper so that it pops out. Now what we can do is we were giving a structure to the information. So this one being the heading, I'll have the brightness high. Now for the description, I can reduce the brightness or the opacity over here under the fill section to, let's say, 57. No, let's keep it as 75. So as you can see, there's a tiny gradient going over there. Alright, so now we're done with section 2. As you can see here, the x coordinate being 691 and here 673. So let's make it 691. Alright, so now we are done with section 2. Now let's go down to section 3. The x coordinate being 60. So let it be 60. And the y coordinate being 1842. 1842. Alright, now we need another description such as about me and then lorem ipsum, which is a dummy text. Now while we are handing the design to the developer, what we'll be doing is they will replace the dummy text with actual content. So now we need about me, which is heading, and then a tiny description. So what we're going to do is we are taking a duplicate of these two things. So select a few handpicked ones and hold on the Alt key and drag it over here. Double click and rename it as about me. All right. Now I want to choose the description, hold on the Alt key, drag it all the way down over here. All right. Now we can do the same thing, go for the X and Y coordinates, 814, 2052. And this one being 814, 2098. All right. So now we are done with section 3. All right, now we are coming back to section 4. And this is a section where a user can, or a public can, contact the given portfolio designer or the photographer. So these icons have been used from a plugin called Feather Icons. So right click and go for plugins. And if you don't have the plugin installed by default, go down to manage plugins or browse plugins in the community. So browse plugins in community and choose here, search here, Feather Icons. Now, if you don't have it installed, click install and then it will be installed. Now come back to our project, right click, go to plugins and choose Feather Icons. So as you can see, we have 4 icons over here: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and email, right? So let's choose Instagram. So double click and we have the Instagram over here. As you can see, a new layer has been formed. All right, now let's try this next one. That would be Facebook. Double click. Next one would be, let's say, Twitter. All right, so I'm gonna move it over here. We have 2 duplicates, so I'm gonna delete this one. Okay, the double click actually caused 2 duplicates to be formed, and the last one being mail. All right, single click would do. Drag it over here. Cool. All right, now we need the icons as white. So what we're going to do is select all the icons and choose the selection color to, let's say, white. All right, now we can drag it all the way over here. Now in comparison, the icons are way too small and we need it a little bigger, right? So, all right, now we need to increase the size of each individual icons. So when I select Facebook, what has happened over here is that we have taken Facebook outside the given frame, the Facebook frame. So it's totally fine. We have a duplicate Instagram over here. So I'm going to delete that. Now choose Facebook, which is a vector. And as you can see, the outline is called a stroke. And we can see it's a stroke instead of a fill. Now let's increase the stroke to 4. All right. Now let's increase the size to, let's say, yeah, this would be fine. Now let's choose Instagram. As you can see, the Instagram is within its own frame and we have 3 vectors. That's the same case with the Facebook. What has happened is that when I dragged the Facebook all the way into the frame, I took Facebook outside its own frame. So now let's increase the size of Instagram. So choose Instagram and choose the corresponding vectors within the frame. And let me increase the stroke to 4. All right. Now let's increase the size to, let's say, the height over here is 48. So let this be linked since it's a square and we need the proportion, height to 48. Now let's go for Twitter. All right, so let's keep it there. We'll come back to it later. Now let's create the footer, which is a minimalistic one of the same navbar. So I'm going to choose a navbar. All right, once you choose the navbar,
hold on the Alt key and make a duplicate of the navbar. To undo, just click on Ctrl Z. Now I'm going to take a duplicate, hold down the Alt key, select the navbar. Now as you can see, the mouse pointer turns into a duplicate double arrow. Click and drag. Now I have a duplicate navbar. I'm going to bring it all the way down to the footer. So alright, so now I'm going to bring name closer to about. Keep the spacing right. Alright, so let's choose the neighbor and rename it as footer. Alright, now select the group and let's align it to the center. So now we are done with all the 4 sections for the time being. Now in the next stage we will be seeing prototyping, where we'll be able to select a particular link and be taken to the corresponding section. So for the time being, to see how it's looking, you could just click on the play button and you can see how the UI is gonna look. So at the moment I can scroll. Give it a second. Alright, so now this is slightly off, so we need to align it to the center. So come back to our project and let me group this. Hold on the Shift key, Ctrl G. Let's align it to the center. Cool. Alright. Let's bring down the opacity.
Alright, we are done with stage 1. Now we will proceed ahead with stage 2 in the next video. If you loved the effort, do give a like, a share and a subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.